Hey everyone, welcome to the first installment of On the Wrong Lead presents Saratoga Daily. I am Mark, and I'm here with Josh, the other major co-conspirator on the On the Wrong Lead stream, talking a little bit of Saratoga opening day. Obviously, this opening day is going to be quite different than the norm, given the COVID world. No fans in the stands for the entire Saratoga meet. And Josh, I got thinking. 1 year ago today, you were sitting at Saratoga, and what were some highlights? What are some takeaways from your adventure out east?
The chicken sandwich.
Oh, Hattie's
That,
chicken, nice, nice. I gave you some
that
good food.
the only thing that I ate multiple times on my trip. Um, the Yeah, man, it it's weird because I had only gone to Arlington before I went to Saratoga, and if you've ever been to Arlington, it's a much different atmosphere. It's very Um, Arlington's very nice, but it's nice. It's almost like I guess, like a stadium, if you will. It's kind of like, if you were to go to, like in Chicago, the United Center or something like that. You got those nice seats. You got nice boxes. You got good food, like stadium type food and stuff like that. But it's very much. I don't want to say manufactured. That's not the right word, but just think of a stadium, and then think of, when you go to Saratoga, it's like almost like going to a park. So kind of think of the difference between going to a park and going to a stadium. It's like a park that just happens to have a racetrack in the middle of it. So you got people out there, picnicking. You got people with drinks. You got everyone just having a good time. I mean, it really does remind me a lot of, like almost the atmosphere that like we have at like my family cookouts in the summer. Everyone's just kind of outside having a good time and just betting on the races. So yeah, it sucks with everything going on. We were planning on going. I know I was planning on going up there, and we have a couple other Discord members who are planning on going. So gonna have to wait another year, it sounds like. But yeah, I mean, loved the atmosphere, loved being able to bring my own beer in, loved the food there, and the racing is like second to none. I mean, it is awesome. Being able to see all those horses, up close, and just all these big names. And I mean, I just remember I forgot what horse it was, Mark, but I remember you were just like we were just sitting there and we were watching, the horses parading, and like there's just like some like unknown 2-year old that they're kind of like
Yeah.
schooling and bringing behind them, and like you're like, yeah, I think that horse is probably a monster. Like you saw just this big fucking horse, and like no one knew what horse it was. It's just kind of crazy. Like who knows? I don't even remember what horse it was at this
I
point.
can't remember. I think it was one of the Chad Brown stable horses that I knew the name of, and I know a lot of their assistants by face. So you see him walk by, you know it's a Chad guy, and you kind of look at the horse and go, "Oh, that's a router. That's probably a monster." And I can't remember which horse it was now, but it ran a couple days later, and I think ran won by 10 or something, and I can't remember the name right now.
Yeah, it's not like that Chad Brown that both you and Clamps had. I think you had it as a lone A, and Clamps I think was single to it. In that pick five sequence that would have paid boxcars.
Yeah, I
And
think that
all you
was
needed was Chad Brown to get there.
Yeah, I think it was 15 grand. I think neither one of us wanted that 15 grand. So, but Josh, I've been meaning to ask. I'm more of a horizontal focused player. I tend to be more spready, and I'm definitely somebody who's comfortable being a little bigger ticket size. How do you, as being somebody who's a little more focused and a little bit more, I know you tend to be a guy who wants to get the favor out of there, find a price to key around, those types of things. How do you approach a Saratoga type meet where you have these big, huge competitive fields?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I think there's a couple of things that you can focus on, to try and isolate some bigger prices. Obviously, for always looking for pace. I'm looking for that longer price, maybe that longer price lone speed horse, or maybe speed of the speed horse that might get out in front. Probably shipping from a smaller circuit, like maybe a Finger Lakes, or well, I mean Finger Lakes I don't think ran this year, but shipping from a smaller circuit like a Finger Lakes or a Parks, um, that ran horses off feet, but it's not a Naira horse, so maybe it's getting a little overlooked here. Um, so I always look at pace as one of those things where you might get an advantage um, over some of these shorter price horses. Another thing is something I think you're going to talk about a little bit here in the sequence is, if you are, a serious player, or if you, especially like on a big day, if you're going to be playing for the entire day, I highly recommend getting in on workout reports. They're uh, I mean, my biggest score came from Oaks Day, when I had a workout report on the horse called Cummings, who I think had either an A minus or a B plus work, and there wasn't really anybody else with much of a good work in that race. So I moved that horse up from a B to an A, and I played a lone A ticket, or a single A ticket, and yeah, nice $4,200 later, hitting that pick four for $1. And I wouldn't have had that horse if it wasn't for being able to look at the workout reports. So I think those are two tools that you can use to kind of isolate bigger prices. But yeah, uh, I've kind of moved a little bit more into playing mostly win bets and pick threes. Maybe a little bit of the pick four. I'm starting to dip my toe in a little bit more, mostly because, um, at least for me, it's a good way to, with how skinny I play. It's a good way to get action and not have to invest a ton of money. Like something like a 3x3 or 3x3x2 pick three will run you like $18. Um, Whereas it's really easy to bet a couple of horses, bet a horse to win and get like an exacta or something like that in there, and spend $18 on one race. So you kind of you're able to stretch your money out a little bit more. And for somebody who's playing with a smaller bankroll, um, it's always good to get creative with how you can attack sequences that way. Playing verticals gets expensive very quick, so you have to either be narrow and be right. Or if you do want to spread a little bit more, I think you do need to look more at those horizontal sequences. But we all know that you play a pick five and you go four wide in a couple legs, and next thing you're looking at $100 plus easy. So I tend to kind of stay with the smaller horizontal plays, and win in the occasional exacta there. But yeah, pace and workouts I think are the two easiest ways to get some prices there.
Yeah, so I mean, moving into this card, obviously 10 race card. I think what four of these are on the turf. Features are there's kind of a co-feature of the Schuylerville and the Peter Pan. Peter Pan is a Derby points paying race this year. Normally, the Peter Pan is the prep for the Belmont Stakes. Obviously, with all COVID and the schedule being all moved around, they decided to move it up to Saratoga this year. So you're seeing sort of an interesting thing there, where the race that I don't think it's ever been run at Saratoga before. I mean, we can actually let's hop over to the Peter Pan real quick, and we can talk some quick Peter Pan, and then we can go to some other sequences and some other things that we might want to address instead of that. I mean, obviously, I think you're going to see morning line favorite in the Peter Pan. It appears to be Mystic Guide, Stidham horse. Coming off a second place and an allowance. Stidham's real good second off. I think the line here will probably move quite a bit. Josh and I were talking about this beforehand. I would be surprised if Candy Tycoon is anywhere near 5-1. He was the Pletcher hype horse all last summer, and it took him forever to break his maiden. He's always been a works horse. He's been a horse that the workout reports just love. He's a great mover, but he just doesn't seem to really put it together in a race. Ran him in the Florida Derby, and he was embarrassed pretty badly. And then you sort of have the new shooter in here, Caracaro, who's the horse that I'm really interested on from a pace standpoint. Horse that showed the ability to show quite a lot of early pace and then still close late. In that Gulfstream Park race, obviously steps out of the maiden special weight company up here versus winner's first time, but seems that this field didn't there's no monsters in here. There's none of those, big number hype Derby horses. And I think this is one that, if you want to get a little cute around, might be one that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I know we'll talk a little bit more, I think, about this race probably on Wednesday night. We're going to try and do some streaming to take a look at some of the stakes races. But I did want to talk about this race a little bit here because I think pace wise, this came up pretty interesting. I think there's a bit of speed signed up here. You got Mohawk, the one horse here for Rudy Brissett. Looks like looks to be a sprinter stretching out. Has got that E8 designation on Brisnet, so you know that this horse has tried to get the lead sprinting. So you better believe going a mile and the eighth that this horse is going to try and get the lead. Not go as fast, but still, this horse has got sprinter speed. So I mean, Rosario aboard, and sometimes you question his how passive he is on some rides, but um, I think that in this case, the only option he has from the rail is to get the lead. Does has Uncle Mo on top, so is this distance is not going to be a problem. So this horse is a little interesting to me because I think that of the pure speed horses, this is gonna have to be the fastest one. Um, but I think I'm going to look elsewhere here. I do like Candy Tycoon a little bit here. Finished second to Rushy in that optional claimer last time out at Oak Lawn. Rushy came back to run. I think ran third in the stakes race at Keeneland. Um, but ran decent. I liked Rushy in the last race. But one of my favorite things about Candy Tycoon is how much money this horse cost Caleb going against American Butterfly at Saratoga last year. That definitely moves it up in my mind. But actually, what it really is that this horse looks like it's working like a monster again. We did say the same thing last year at Saratoga. This was Todd Pletcher's, a horse. This was his, big 2-year-old, and it did take him a little bit to hit his stride. But definitely with the exception of the Florida Derby, has run a lot better this year as a 3-year-old. So I will, I'll give this horse the benefit of the doubt and, go back to the well. Although it does scare me a little bit that this horse's worst race was at this distance. Obviously the morning line favorite Mystic Guide is going to be coming in as kind of like the buzz horse. But the other horse I'm going to take a look at is going to be the 9 Cazzarelli. Looks to be kind of a lone closer situation here. And shipping in for Tom Amos, who is probably about as good of a trainer as anybody else. He's had a heck of a past couple years here. He's winning at a high clip. I'm not entirely sure how well he ships in the Saratoga. So I'm sure maybe Mark, you'd be able to shed some light on that. But yeah, I mean, I think pace wise, this horse fits. Figs wise, this horse does not fit, at least on Briz. Is going to need to improve quite a bit. But, it seems like, at least pace wise that this horse does fit here pretty well. So it'll be interesting to see. I still think that of the shorter prices, I'll probably lean heaviest on Candy Tycoon. But Cazzarelli is definitely interesting to me, along with Mystic Guide, the favorite.
Yeah, just to answer your question, Tom Amos has historically been pretty terrible shipping into Saratoga. I actually put a post up into Reddit today. He's a list of trainers who I just are automatic tosses, that are guys that are below 5%, that are big name trainers who just don't ship well to Saratoga. And I think it's not that Tom Amos is a wonderful trainer. I think he's just a guy who this is not his primary track, and he's shipping in here to take a shot in a stakes race with a really good horse, or he's shipping his B grade stuff here that he maybe is looking to get rid of in a claimer kind of a thing. So I don't think that's his A game here. I think for me this is going to be a race around Caracaro. I'm really interested in this maiden, just out maiden breaker coming back. Looks to have a real tactical advantage. One of the speeds that seems to have the ability to still finish. I do agree with you. I think there's a lot of pace in this race. It does sort of set up for a closer. maybe that closer is Candy Tycoon, who can sit off, stay out of trouble, and close late. But it's an interesting race, interesting running of the Peter Pan, and yeah, it's interesting to see it on the Saratoga opening day card. With that being said, did you, kind of get into the closing thoughts here? Did you have any sort of wager structure that you wanted to approach here? Any sort of, something you're going to be playing or something you're going to be trying to keying around in here or in another race?
Well, I think in this race, I'm probably going to want to be live to at least those two horses in Candy Tycoon and Cazzarelli. Cazzarelli would be more of like a B type. I think Candy Tycoon is my top choice here. So I'm going to try and get live to this horse. Let me take a quick peek because I believe there was another horse I really liked. I know in the eighth race. Uh, and I don't know if you guys were joking or not, but Quinoa Tifa, a great name first of all. But that horse looked a little interesting to me in race 8. And then in race 7, there's a horse that kind of jumped out at me, Panda Mom, with some nice works, and it looks like this horse is on the improve. So I think trying to connect that horse in race 7 to Candy Tycoon, and possibly Cazzaretti in race 9, um, and then kind of figuring out what we're going to do here in race 8, to kind of connect those those 3 legs for a little pick 3 there.
Yeah, I think that the structure that I was looking for, Panda Mom, is the horse that I'm very interested. Works horse, Christophe Clement shipping to New York and into Naira. When he comes to Saratoga, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the meet, he's extremely live. It seems to be his horses fire right off the bat, and then some of the bigger, then he cools off towards the end of the meet, and some of the other big name trainers fire up. Junior Alvarado gets up. I think Junior Alvarado at Saratoga is as good on the turf as anyone. I don't, there's no one that I can think of that I'd rather have up. He's not a big name jock. Doesn't have that hype factor around him, but he's phenomenal. And this was the works horse, horse that has looked pretty impressive last out. Has some of the best last out figs in the field. I really want to kind of build into this horse. I might also in this race want a little bit of Summer at the Spa. Jonathan Thomas horse. He's been firing great last out. It gets JJ up, who's also quite solid on turf. And I want a little bit of Asturias Kitten, this Danny Gargan horse out of the one path, who probably will be is the morning line favorite. Will probably go off as the favorite. One post on turf routes at Saratoga is historically really, really good. Into that, the real horse on the card that I was I have the highest. Let me just double check here. Or sorry, another works horse that I want in the race prior to that. Sorry about that. Is if Mr. Everything ends up being the horse that of the 2 West Ward horses in here that comes in, that was a really, really hyped works horse as well. So I might want to build around that horse in the 6th race. And the horse that I sort of want to be keying around, yeah, this is the one I wanted. In the 5th race, the Caretaker, who's Tom Morley horse, seems to be doing really well. Another works horse, so you have kind of those 3 works horses in the row. I would want to sort of build a sequence where I probably single the Caretaker. In that 6th race, it's a bit of a scramble, turf sprint. I'm going to be on the 2, 7, and the 8, and then into mainly the the 8 horse in the 7th as an A, and probably a little bit of 1, 9. So making a sort of little bit of an ABC, but probably putting quite a bit of leverage behind that sequence.
Yeah, and looking again real quick at race 8, which I know I had mentioned that Quinoa Tifa, but there was a horse that does interest me a bit. Doesn't look that great on the Briz, but it's going to be the 6th Queen Arella here, coming in for Roderick Rodriguez, who I am not like very familiar. I don't think
Son of
I
Rudy.
can't. Oh, is that Rudy's son? Oh, okay.
Yep.
So is Speightster, which has had some decent success so far as a sire early. I think I forgot how many runners he's had so far, but hitting that 33% first time out, and maybe this is the horse that I Oh, you know what? I know why this horse is familiar because I bet this horse to win at Gulfstream. But you're going to get Joel Rosario here aboard on the sprint race, and he's going to be closing. And one thing I do like in uh, these 2-year-old stakes races, and something I always look for is horses that have passed other horses, because too frequently you're going to sit
Yep.
there and you're just going to get all these horses that just have ones, and you don't know what the heck these horses are going to do when all these horses are used to having a lead, and they've only ran once or twice. So you're gonna want. I'd like to kind of zag a little bit and look for something that's going to be coming from off the pace. Now, the 8 Hopeful Princess does look pretty large here. Is transferring into Steve's barn. Got Ricardo aboard, and I don't think that this is the Steve Asmussen power move in the works, but does have a bullet work coming into this one. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna be a little interested here on to see what the 6 does here. We'll see what kind of price we get. I know speed figure wise, the horse doesn't look very impressive, um, but coming from off the pace, I think that this might be a horse that will definitely be usable and definitely something that you want to use underneath. You could probably make the same case for the 1 Make Mischief in that race.
Yeah, to say Queen Aurelia, the 6, is also interesting for the fact that it was a $475,000 RNA, meaning the horse basically had a reserve and it was a buyback. So the farm put it in and they basically said, yep, yeah, that price isn't high enough. They said 475,000 wasn't high enough for that horse and they took it back. So it means they thought, obviously, the farm that bred it thought, which is, Windstar's the breeder, they obviously thought very highly of the horse. Hopeful Princess is very interesting as well. That's a private purchase by Stone Street off from that first start, and they moved it into Steve Asmussen's barn. When Stone Street does that, it's normally the Rachel Alexandras of the world, where that was another thing that they did. So they have a tendency to go out and really target horses that they look as broodmare prospects, and also horses that are very, very classy and very high caliber. So I think Hopeful Princess is just super logical in here. Arguably your most likely winner. Her and Beautiful Memories are the 2 that are probably going to be the shortest price on the board. But one thing I will say about these 2-year-old stakes races, most of these horses only have 1 race. It's nothing for a horse to, especially as a 2-year-old, to improve massive amounts. So Josh talking about a horse that hasn't run since May, and has been working out pretty steadily from a real high percentage barn, and Joel Rosario thought to get aboard. I see no reason why this horse can't be right there at the end of this, and you're getting 6-1 on the morning line. So pay attention to the board, but also these types of races I tend to cast a little wider net. So, any final thoughts, Josh?
No, I'm just excited to see this meet come back. I'm gonna do my best to only focus on 2 tracks for the next couple months or next couple weeks, because I think it's only gonna be a 6-week meet in Saratoga and Del Mar until Churchill comes back for their fall meet, and we get maybe some Kentucky Downs and stuff like that in September. But yeah, I mean, Saratoga is racing. It's going to be a weird meet.
Yeah.
Obviously, disappointed that we're not going to be able to be there in person. But I'm excited about all the stuff that we got planned, and all the fun content we're going to try and put out for this. So yeah, I'm excited. Can't wait for this to start.
Awesome, man. Hey, thank you for the time, Josh. As always, we're going to be throwing these up. Hopefully, be doing probably 5 or 6 of these a week. This was kind of a dry run to get a feel for what it's going to look like. Real high level overview of the card and what we've been seeing, what's been working, and some real actionable sequences. So, until next time, good luck with the races.